you apply the market gardening techniques or some of these smaller added value models, then you can certainly earn the income that is needed for the financial test. And some of these, if you like, these routes also will tick the box for the functional tests, which Alan can allude to. One of the areas is aquaponics, which is very interesting, very fascinating, and very regenerative method of producing both high value crops and fish in a sort of circular environment. But it does need monitoring, which means you have to be there. And that will tick the box. If you leave an aquaponic system for any length of time and there is a failure, which because it relies on pumps and then in some cases lighting, that could quite easily happen, then you will lose your whole crop. So it does need attention, which will then tick that box. And that's what we sort of hope to demonstrate, really.
Absolutely. So some of the areas you can get into which aren't typically traditional farming are microgreens, aquaponics, mushrooms. Mushrooms by far has worked out to be the most profitable for the lowest amount of space needed and actual ongoing effort. Because once you've figured out your process and your flow and exactly which kind of mushrooms you want to grow,
it's just a matter of scale. Then,
it's a matter of scale.
Yeah, rinse and repeat.
The maths that I did on the design for the mushroom farm that I'm going to build out in full scale is a space that works out about 10 meters by 10 meters.
Good size.
And that can generate anywhere between 60 and 80 grand a year by itself.
Turnover or profit?
That is turnover, but your margins on mushrooms are really, really high. It's over 50%.
And if you've got a local market, then all the better. But they're easily posted, aren't they? If you can build up
very easily posted.
a network.
And building out your customer base actually benefits you if they're close to you. So every cafe, every gastropub, every restaurant, every sandwich maker, if you really want to, you can go to a wholesale distributor and they'll buy everything from you. It'll be a massive discount, but you really can. So per bloom of mushroom, if we're looking at oyster mushrooms at this point in time,
blue or pink oyster,
you could make, roughly speaking, about £4 to £5 per bloom. But in a space that's 10 meters by 10 meters, you can have 100, 130 blooms. I'm just trying to use terminology that's easy for people to understand. So a bloom would be probably about the size of my hand, if not bigger. And that's really, really easy to do. And the turnaround is 18 to 22 days per harvest. Once you've built out your system and your whole flow of how you work, it's actually very, very little effort. It takes the initial process, start to finish, is about 2.5 hours worth of work all in. And the rest of the time, all you're doing is going in to check, maybe spraying some water. If you've got an automatic fogger, you don't even need to do that. So you spend 2.5 hours at the beginning of your cycle for this particular crop. And then after that, it's every 2 days you check, maybe you spray it unless you have a fogger, and you're just looking at it. So you go in, have a look. How's it doing? Is it blooming? Or is there fungus on there? And that's pretty much all you need to check for, essentially. And then after 10 to 15 days, it starts to sprout. And then all you're doing after that is checking when's the optimum time for me to harvest. That's literally all you're doing.
How many blooms can you get from one one, I don't know what you call it.
Just a bucket.
Yeah.
One bucket.
If
So
you're breeding like
I would
that.
recommend buckets because they're more sustainable because they're usable. Some people use plastic bags, but at the end of using the plastic bags, you have to throw them away, which generates waste that isn't easily recyclable.
So you're talking about those 5-gallon bucket, white bucket.
Yeah. So they're easily reusable.
Yeah.
Per bucket, you can easily, let's say you get, what size buckets have I got? 10 litres. So they're about that big.
2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
16 blooms, 16 to 20 blooms a bucket,
You can.
I'd say.
Wow.
Probably a little bit more. Because it's per hole, right? Per hole in
Yeah.
the bucket is a bloom.
You probably wouldn't get that many, would you?
Not every hole would definitely produce. If you put 16 holes in,
Yeah,
you'd probably get 10.
that's about right. Yeah.
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 You'd probably get 10 actually coming out and growing into a hand, so
Yeah.
to speak. I'm a visual guy. And each one of those hands is worth £4 to £5.
Good
Like
lad.
to say
4
to 5 pounds.
not
Not 45, I wish. Maybe if you grow a lion's mane.
Yeah,
maybe.
like turkey tail.
Yeah. But it's actually really, really simple, really easy. But so many people don't know this.
Yeah.
Because when I started, I thought growing mushrooms was a mystical art.
Yeah.
I thought I needed to do some real studying and, do massive research and create this perfectly scientifically
Environment.
super clean. It was like,
Play the harp to them.
No, I did it in my bathtub. The first time. I kid you not.
Yeah.
I poured hot water into a bag of straw
Yeah.
in my bathtub
Love that.
and left it there overnight.
Yeah.
And then the next morning, I crumbled the mycelium over it, mixed it with my hands, put it in a bucket, and walked away.
That was it.
And left it for 3-4 days. No, it was longer. Yeah, first 3-4 days, left it, took a peek, saw the mycelium was like taking it over. It looks like a spider's web or like ice is taking over or frost is taking over. I was like, fine, we get in there. Left it another 4 or 5 days, came back, checked it again, fully snowed over. I was like, this is going really well.
Yeah.
I've done nothing. And then after that, I put it in my living room. My living room's in my attic, so I put it in the corner of the room where it was bright but no direct sunlight hit it.
Yeah.
And forgot about it. And then every couple of days, I was like, oh yeah, I'm growing mushrooms. So I'd go and I'll check. It's like, yeah, I should spray a bit of water, squirt, 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 go back to watching Netflix. That was it.
It's just too much hard work. So the plan is to amplify that up into 10 metres by 10 metres.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
And my first bloom was actually slower than I thought it was. So I kept checking it every 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
And eventually, I think it was day 19, it started to like sprout out properly.
Right.
I was like, oh snap, here we go.
Yeah.
And then at that point, again, I went back to checking it every 2 days.
Yeah.
And on about day 26, I got my first set of sprouts come out.
That's when it really kicks off, isn't it? Because it goes from here to there,
and
really kicks off.
This is no exaggeration. It doubles in size every 24 hours. It grows
amazing,
by 100% every 24 hours from that point.
Yeah.
And that's when I was checking it every day.
That's the payback.
In the morning before going to do my work activities. And it was on day, I can't remember I think it was day 26 or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, right, let's harvest it today.
Yeah.
Let's cook it right now. And I grew pink oyster mushrooms.
Job done.
Yeah. And then I forgot you get a second flush out of it. So I just left it there. I thought, let's see how it goes. It might work, it might happen. And then I checked 5 days after, thought, nah, nothing's happening here. Left it. My wife on day 8 goes, you know, you still got the mushroom bucket there. And you know it's growing again. I was like, no way. I was like, when I checked it again, and lo and behold, it was. And at this point, I got lazy because I was just, well, not lazy.
At that point, you got lazy. You haven't done anything for weeks.
I got distracted and moved on to other stuff.
Netflix.
Yeah. So I hadn't checked it in 5 days.
Yeah.
So I looked at it again. I was like, oh snap, this is really going for it. But then I had a contract where I had to be away for like 3-4 days. So I just left it with the business like, yeah, it's going to keep growing. So at some point, they're just going to have to like harvest it.
Yeah,
It's like,
just eat it.
I don't know what to do. Like, just twist and pop, and that's it. It's harvested. Like, really?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's it. And there we go.
And that was it.
Yep.
So had you, here's a question for you. Had you considered actually capturing some of the spores and repopulating, is that something that you...
I did, but that sounded like big maths to me.
Oh, right.
And I was just like...
He's overworked right now. He's just too busy.
But the actual, what do you call it? The spores.
The inoculum, the spores. Yeah.
Super cheap.
Yeah.
It's like, why do I need to add big maths to my life
Yeah,
when there's
yeah.
£2.50 a packet?
Yeah.
So I'd rather scale up on £2.50 a packet
Yeah.
and buy my time back
Yeah.
and not have to deal with any of that.
Yeah. No, good idea.
Yeah.
And then once you've built your customer base, then you can just do that.
Exactly.
Scale that up.
Exactly.
So theoretically, a 10 by 10, you were saying turnover of 80,
yeah.
50% profit margin. So we're saying 40%, 40 grand net profit
Yeah. Easily.
on around about 2.5 hours a week
Yep.
for
That's about
inoculating.
$50,000 if you're in America by.
Inoculating, 'cause
Yeah.
you'll be inoculating every week.
Yeah.
won't
Yeah.
you,
So
per
yeah,
harvest.
that's it. So
You'll be inoculating every week, so
Yeah.
2.5 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, let's be generous and say half an hour a day checking them, singing to them,
Over half an hour.
singing and
3 minutes.
spraying and
Dancing.
dancing and praying.
No, it's all of 3 minutes.
Well,
Because
not going to say any jokes here about your lovemaking.
In the space of 3 minutes, you can walk.
Yeah, you could.
You can walk down several aisles
Yeah,
and just looking.
yeah.
And if you need to spray, you've got the spray gun in your hand. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
And this is the thing that blew my mind.
Yeah,
It just sounds too easy.
it does. It does. The instructions I got when I first did mushrooms was on one side of an A4 sheet, and it didn't even fill the page.
Yeah,
So that's mushroom farming. One side of an
one
A4
side.
sheet.
Yeah.
So you need some
10 by
shells.
10.
You need some shells.
Yeah.
You don't really. They don't need light, do they?
Not actual real
Until
light,
they're
no.
blooming.
Yeah.
It seemed like temperature impacted mine.